Yeah, well, if they, I mean, to your point, if they don't do it now, then it's never gonna happen. Like that's what I'm saying. On paper, there's no way this can fail unless injuries, because that's football. But on paper, there's no way this should be a bad team, in my opinion. All right, loser, Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's another great day to discuss other people's excellence. I'm the unforgettable one himself, Mr. Brett Carroll. Charles is always daydreaming, and we're two guys that like BSN at work. Okay, we waited for the first 2 weeks of free agency to be done. Most of the big moves are gone. I'm sure, knowing our luck, something crazy is going to happen tomorrow after we record this, but that's okay. We're talking about the free agency winners and losers up to this point. Um, I think I made this presentation a couple days ago, but still, I don't think anything major happened between when I made it and today, so we're still good. So yeah, like let's do it. Yeah, things to note: these rankings are based off of moves as of March 20th. Obviously, these rankings could change if other moves are made later. And two, I'm grading the free agency period as a whole. Individual moves helping the grades, but I'm looking at everything a team did in the first week and a half of free agency, were really 2 weeks, and grading it all together. So some of these rankings and grades might surprise you. All right, let's get into it. Number one winner. Gotta be
Shocker. Fucking shocker.
gotta,
Yo, I knew it was going to be the Steelers first or fucking Saquon, and I knew you couldn't resist your Steelers. I knew it. I knew it.
I mean, come on, bro.
That's what you wrote.
Come on. This is not even this is not even homerism. Getting Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, the two biggest names on the quarterback market, for practically nothing, is Hall of Fame worthy GMing. The con artist has proven in only a year and some change that he's great at his job, and he was the right man to succeed Kevin Colbert. Not to mention, that's just the quarterback. Not to mention, we got Patrick Queen, one of the best young linebackers in the game, for a bargain. And Dante Jackson. The only reason why I can't give him an A+ for the free agency grade, I gave him an A. Only reason why I didn't give him an A+ is because I still believe we didn't get back enough compensation for Deontay Johnson and Kenny Pickett. Now, you could make the argument, well, what we got for Justin Fields, you got a fleece job for Kenny Pickett, but still, I still don't. My thing is, and I told you this when the trades first happened, before we even got Justin Fields. My issue is we had 7 picks. If you're telling me we traded two of our starters and we still only have 7 picks, I'm a little worried about that. Yes, we got our two of our picks are now better. They were both pick swaps, but we didn't gain any real picks. We did get 2 7s in 2025 for Kenny Pickett. That's great. But to me, if I come into a draft with 7 picks and I trade my starting quarterback and my starting wide receiver, I'm expecting to at least have 9 picks.
Johnson is barely a starter. Come on, man.
Deontay's not, he was a Pro Bowler. Stop doing that. He's not bad. Like, he's not a bad player. Like,
He's not worth anything. He's worth what he got.
no, that's not true. Most people thought we were going to get a second round pick for him.
No, no, most Steelers fans, because
That's
who's
not,
trading a
bro.
second
We
round
got a
pick for a
second
dude
round pick
that
for Wait, hold on.
could
We
Darius
got a
Slay be a
second
second round pick?
round pick for Chase Claypool. Deontay Johnson is 5 times better than Chase Claypool.
Statistically?
Yes. Yes. Bro, Deontay Johnson was a Pro Bowler.
You
Chase
keep saying
Claypool.
Pro Bowler like it means something.
Deontay Johnson, the year he went to the Pro Bowl, was the only receiver in the league that was top 10 in catches, yards, and touchdowns.
Is that his
All
only 1,000 yard season in his career?
No, he's had multiple 1,000 yard seasons.
Has he had multiple 1,000 yard seasons?
Yes, bro. Deontay Johnson's not bad, bro. Like, you act like he's a scrub.
No, I act like you guys got the proper compensation for him and Kenny Pickett. This should be an
No,
A.
no, I don't believe he's worth more. And the Dante Jackson thing, they got Dante. I get it. They really like Dante Jackson. They didn't want him to, because the Panthers were going to cut him, so they didn't want him to hit the free agent market because they really like him. They think they could utilize him in their scheme. So they just said, screw it, give us him and a pick and a pick swap, and we'll give you Deontay Johnson, which is cool. But at the end of the day, Dante Jackson is not a good enough corner for that to be the compensation. That's the only issue I have with what he's done so far. And again, I still gave him an A. Now, it's not like I'm saying, oh my God, this is the worst. Like, no, I gave him an A, not an A+, because I do think you could have gotten a little bit more for Deontay Johnson and Kenny Pickett. That's my only issue. We still have yet Tyler Boyd is still on is still available. Maybe we might sign him this week. Who knows? If we do, maybe that's still good enough to give him the A+ grade. But the point is, he's killed everything else. I just still think we should have gotten a little bit more for Deontay and Kenny.
Deontay has 1,000-yard season. It was in 2021, by the way.
Okay.
Because you're acting like I'm hating, like I didn't look this up before.
Okay. Point is, he's worth more than a 6th round pick. Is the
Not
point?
really.
Yes, he is, bro. He's a good. He's one of the best separators in the game. He's one of the best route runners in the game. It's not his fault. Our quarterback play has been garbage, and we have the worst offense coordinator in the history of offense coordinators. Like that's not his fault. Like the one thing I will say about Deontay that and obviously and he knows this, he could get dropsy sometimes. Like if he has a game where he drops one, he seems to get in his head and he drops passes, and sometimes he likes to run backwards instead of forwards. But other than that, again, one of the best separators in the game, one of the best route runners in the game, even though he has the dropsies, he'll turn around and make a fantastic catch that not too many players in the league can make. Like the dude's a good player. I'm excited to see him in a hopefully better situation than what he had with freaking Matt Canada. Like Matt Canada had, I
He
don't,
had no touchdowns in 2022.
I know he did not have
He had 5 touchdowns last year.
again, we
He has
as
25 touchdowns in his career.
okay, again, we as a offense was one of the worst offense in the league. We had one of the worst offensive coordinators, period. But that doesn't mean Deontay Johnson's not a good player. I watched every single Steelers game. He's a good player. He's worth more than a 6th round pick. That's all I'm saying.
Uh,
Like I'm not saying we should. I'm not saying we shouldn't have gotten a first for him. I'm saying like he should have been a 2nd or 3rd round pick. Instead, you got a okay corner. He's fast, but he's just okay. And I get it. They're probably going to use him as a slot. Fine. But you got an okay corner that was going to get cut anyway, and a 6th round pick for him. Like I think you could have gotten a little bit more. That's not saying a lot. You know what I mean? Like, and again, I still gave him an A. I'm just saying that I think they could have got more. Loser, Carolina Panthers. Let's get right to it. The Panthers did fleece the Steelers for Deontay Johnson. I don't
please,
care what anybody says, because again,
please.
they got him for a corner that they were going to cut anyway, and a pick swap, and a 6th round pick swap. Um,
Deontay Johnson's a player that could get cut. No one's going to be like, I can't believe they cut Deontay Johnson. Is my point.
okay, Charles. I'm just gonna say okay.
I'm just saying, if the Carolina Panthers are trading for you, you're not that good of a wide receiver. If all the Carolina Panthers have to give up is a 6th round pick.
What does that mean? They need receivers. What are you talking about?
Exactly. They need receivers, and they're making they can trade a 6th round pick to get this guy. He's not.
Again, what part of that was a bad trade are you not getting? Like,
I didn't. I think it was a waste of the pick. You could have just picked up a wide receiver with the 6th round pick.
so
And
you think Deontay Johnson? Okay, you know what? You're just being a hater.
I'm
All
not
right,
being a hater, dude.
being
He's
a
the deepest
you don't
position in the
watch you
league.
do not watch you do not watch the
Yeah.
Steelers. He's
Okay.
better than the statistics show he is. We are again, our offensive coordinator is horrible. Horrible.
I know you're a Steelers fan, but just because you're a Steelers fan doesn't mean the third wide receiver on your team is that
He
great.
was our number one receiver. What are you talking? This is what I'm saying. Like, you're just saying stuff. He was not like, well, like, what are you talking about?
He was your number one receiver.
Yes, he was our number one receiver. As much as George Pickens was supposed to be the number one receiver, he was our number one receiver. He's not our third receiver. What are you talking about?
He's the third receiver on a good. George Pickens should be your first receiver. Like that's
I
that's
just
just
said
my
as much
opinion.
as George Pickens should be our number one, he was not our number one. Deontay Johnson's our number one receiver. Now George Pickens is going to be our number one, but again, Deontay Johnson is a really good receiver. He's a really good receiver. Our Matt Canada had the worst offense I have ever seen in my life. It
Well,
made no sense. It made no logical sense. In theory, it didn't even make sense. His whole offense was running the ball side to side. That was his whole offense. Oh, we're just gonna outrun people to the edge. That was
I
his
just
offense.
I just think if you're right and he's this good, it was just all Matt Canada, then he should be in line for at least 1,000-yard season because they have no one else to throw to either.
Okay, we'll see what he does in Carolina. But again, my point is he had 1,000 yard season. He made the Pro Bowl. He's a good player. Matt Canada held everybody in that offense back. That's and like I said when he got fired, this is how you know he's the first coach to ever get fired. That's how bad this dude was. The Steelers of all organizations who refuse to fire anybody got to a point where it's like, all right, bro, like we gave you every chance in the world. This is bad. Like you're like we gotta fire you. Like that's how bad Matt Canada is. Like again,
Why is
Deontay,
it not an F? Why is the Carolina Panthers just not an F?
why is it not an F?
Yeah.
Because they did make some good moves on offense. Their defense is in shambles. They got some good offensive linemen, which was good. Again, I give him an A+ for the Deontay trade because they got him for nothing, and I think he's a much better player than what they gave up for. Again, they gave up a corner that they were going to cut anyway. Um, so that's an A+ move. I like some of the other things they did, but they also had the worst move in the offseason, which was the Brian Burns trade.
Worse for
That's an F.
who?
That's a F.
Woo!
That's a F minus. Um, they also lost Frankie Louvu. They lost a lot of players on defense, so that's why they have a C minus. But I also get it. They basically said we're gonna sacrifice the defense. We have to get this offense together. And the moves that they made on offense were some good moves. That's the reason why it's a C minus. Now, again, defensively, it's all Fs. So I can't rank this any higher than a C minus, and I have him as a loser. So like it's not
You're
like I'm
not
sitting,
excited for Calavion?
huh?
Calavin?
I didn't hear what
Clavin?
you, I didn't hear what you said.
Kaysen? They signed an
What
edge rusher. They signed an edge rusher. You're not excited for him?
oh, who's the edge rusher that they signed?
K- His name is K apostrophe Lavon. How do you say that?
I don't know.
Kaysen. Chasen? Chaisson.
Okay, yeah, never heard of him. So
You've never
again,
heard of him?
yeah. So again, I'm just
I
saying
recognize his name from like draft prospect stuff. So if you don't remember him, that's even worse. Like I
that's what I'm saying. Defensively, they did nothing. Offensively, they got some offensive linemen in there. They got Deontay Johnson. Offensively, they've done a good job. They've clearly chosen that like we need to make sure that Bryce Young is good. So we're gonna sacrifice the defense, which is sad because they had the fourth ring defense last year. They're gonna sacrifice the defense for offense. Um, and I get it. They were kind of in cap hell, so they had to make a decision. That's the decision they made. So they get a C minus. Winner, the Chicago Bears. I know that might come a shock because of the whole Justin Fields thing, but everything else they did was amazing. They brought in Keenan Allen, they brought in DeAndre Swift, they got in Everett, they got in some offensive linemen. Um, Caleb Williams is literally this is not hyper like he is literally coming into the best situation a number one draft pick has ever had. Like nobody, no top five quarterback has ever gone to a situation where there was two 1,200-yard receivers from last year on the team. Caleb Williams has that. And they boosted the offensive line. And they got some more tight ends. And they brought in some more running backs. Like, and they were able to defensively, they were able to re-sign Jalen Johnson. Everybody thought that they were going to lose him. They re-signed him. They brought in Kevin Byard. Like, yeah, they botched the Justin Fields move. So that's an F. But literally everything else is an A+. So I give them an A minus. I really love what they did. And Caleb, I hate to say it, bro, it's on you now. Like you're supposed to be the next great prospect. This is not a situation where it's like, oh my God, he's going to a bad. So you're literally going to
But
the.
he's going to a bad team. The Bears are a terrible team. Like this isn't the first time. You made a good point. You made awesome points just now about why they had a good offseason. I don't want to make it sound like that's what I'm saying. But I have to until they're in the playoffs. I just don't. I'm not buying the Bears. Like the last 20 years have formed this opinion of this organization for me.
Yeah,
Like
but to be fair, it's a new coach and a new, well, not a new coach. It's a new regime there. So it's like,
yeah, and I've been hearing the same old song and dance for the last 20
no,
years.
I get you, but at some point, it's like you can't keep giving somebody the sins of the past like Ryan Poles has done a good job. Like what he did this offseason, I think was amazing.
You
And like
know,
I
it's yet you like the moves, but we literally don't know if it's a good job yet because there's been off seasons where we both liked and those teams were garbage.
Yeah,
Like this is one of those like
but again, that's not my. I guess my point is we all the only thing we can grade this on is what they did, right? Whether it whether it works out or not, who knows? But you can't sit there and look at these moves and say they were not good moves. They were great moves.
no, listen to set it. They're not setting up a new quarterback for failure.
Right. Which is what
And I agree with you there. I'm just saying, like it is like the joke I made about the Panthers trading for the wide receiver. Like it's like certain teams make certain moves, and you're just like, I'll use my own team just to be fair, right? The Giants. I have no faith in them doing a reach for one of these quarterbacks in the draft, right? Why? Because the Giants. Like you doing reaches in the top six, I have no faith in. Just like for the Chicago Bears, until they have an offense, like not even to be funny. Like when I think of Chicago Bears offense, my brain goes to Matt Forte and Jay Cutler and that whole team, and that's a long time ago.
yeah, but
So
okay. But again, they're gonna get Caleb Williams, assumingly. And you can't look at this at the supporting cast and not say that this is a good offense. That's what I'm saying. Like they Justin, I mean, to me, Caleb Williams at this point, bro, it's gonna be on you. It's gonna be on you. Now again, I don't know who their new offensive coordinator is. I forgot. So if they have just a horrible offensive coordinator, maybe because obviously Eberflus is a defensive minded guy, so he's gonna focus on that and let the offense coordinator do his thing. So maybe that could be a bad situation. But other than that, like you got the you got the playmakers. Like there's this offense looks amazing on paper right now. Again, it's assuming Caleb Williams is halfway as good as people think he's going to be. Um, so and again, I'm not saying he has to be Patrick Mahomes right out the gate. That's not fair. That's not fair. But what I'm saying is, as a rookie quarterback, you have and mind you, they still have they still got the ninth pick in the draft. So not only can they take Caleb Williams, they could just take best player available at 9, whether that's the offensive lineman, whether that's another receiver. A lot of people think if Roma Doomsday is there, they'll take him at 9 and have like probably the best trio of receivers in the league. Um, oh yeah, and I think that's another reason why they're saying they're taking Roma Doomsday because I think their offensive coordinator is from the Rams tree that likes to run those 3 receiver sets. So okay, so you have a quote unquote good offensive coordinator, at least in theory. We'll see. Like, yeah, man. Like, I think the Bears should be. I'm not saying they're gonna win the Super Bowl next year. I'm not
no,
saying that.
I know what you mean. They're in a tough division. Like
Yeah.
because everything you're saying makes sense on a football level, but my whole issue with it is it's an execution thing because we're so early. This is the free agency is one of the more frustrating things because when you win free agency, it's like who cares? Because how many times have me and you got up on here and told Jets fans pump your brakes? You
No,
know what I mean?
I get it. I
Because
get
they
it.
what are they three-peat off-season champions right now?
No,
Like
I get
besides
it.
actually they just lost their title because we haven't talked about the Jets yet. So the good for them that the last 3 years of the 2020s when we were like, oh, it's obviously the Jets that had the best offseason, and how much of winning has that turned into? So and that's not even me being like funny, like, oh no, I thought they were great moves at the time. So it's just one of those things where when it comes to the Bears, it's until you see it, right? The USC quarterbacks thing, the Bears quarterbacks thing, it's compounded right here. Everything
Well,
Brent
and
just
also
said, I agree with.
even then it's weird because Caleb Williams isn't your typical USC quarterback. He's from Maryland. He went to Oklahoma and then he transferred to USC. So he's not the stereotypical USC quarterback that was born and
He's not the
raised in
SoCal kid.
right, that was born and raised in SoCal and has never been outside the daggone state except for when he plays Arizona. You know what I mean? Like,
And Nevada. And Nevada.
was Nevada in the Pac-12?
No, I don't know. I just know it's a short drive away from
Yeah,
Southern California.
or like his definition of cold is Oregon. Like
He's
it's
like,
like
I know what cold is. I've been to Washington.
right, exactly. So it's just like I don't know. So Caleb Williams is he's an East Coast kid, so I think he'll be all right. Now, granted, I don't think Maryland is as cold as Chicago, but it gets cold, so I think they'll be all right. But again, you're right. They gotta see it. Some franchises are just cursed. You know what I mean? Like, but again, I also try to give credit when credit is due.
Who's
They've
the
set
best Bears quarterback of all time?
probably you.
Yeah, for real. That's what I mean. That's how bad the Bears are. That like,
Right, but well, hopefully Caleb Williams will change all that. That's all it takes is
I
one
mean,
guy.
that's the hope. Like as a football fan at this point, like I know the Giants have some old timey rivalry with the Bears. I understand that history and all that. But with that said, like I hope they don't. I just want them to stop sucking.
Yeah, well, if they, I mean, I'll, to your point, if they don't do it now, then it's never gonna happen. Like this, that's what I'm saying. On paper, there's no way this can fail unless injuries, because that's football. But on paper, there's no way this should be a bad team, in my opinion. All right, loser, Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Their cap situation would be a quiet offseason, but still the lack of activity is still interesting. Lost a lot of key players as well, although none of aren't
They lost
replaceable.
that O lineman, man. Oh,
The
oh,
real issue is they haven't replaced them yet, so we're gonna have to see what they do in the draft. I gave him a D for Dallas. There you go.
dog. This makes me so happy. I was rocking a Giants sweater at work last week or the week before, and some random Cowboys fan started talking trash to me. I was like, "Hey, who did we just trade for?" And like, "Oh, Burns from the Panthers." I was like, "Yeah, yeah." It's like, who's our defensive line now? I'm like, it's like Kayvon, Dexter Lawrence, and Burns, right? It's like, yeah, but I was like, yeah, but your O line, yeah, 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 that O line you're losing. And I was like, love to see it. I love to see it. Oh my god, it's like this is great. This is the best part of the. This should have been the opening slide. This is
Oh
a
my
good mood
goodness.
setter. This is a good mood setter. Makes you really feel positive about the future.
Oh my goodness. Whatever. In the middle, the Giants and Jets. Both New York teams,
Mediocrity, woo!
both New York
We
teams
don't suck. We don't suck. We don't suck.
have great individual wins. The Giants getting burned for close to nothing might be the best individual move of the free agent period. The Jets getting both Tyron
Hey,
Smith
it
and
was a
Mike Williams.
second round pick.
The Panthers were supposed to get two first and a second. So I don't yeah, we're not
Well, you got a second, and then like two future sixth, fifth, or something. I
no,
don't know,
no,
but you got it.
one future fifth. That's what they got.
Oof, oof.
Yeah. The
And
Jets
Brian Burns
getting
is good, right? He's like a good player, right?
we'll see. Both Tyron Smith and Mike Williams are high risk, high reward moves that a team that are all in on Aaron Rodgers is expected to make. However, for the Giants, the other moves are what I question. They brought in some decent players, but none that I believe are great long-term solutions. For the Jets, again, I love the two big moves, but they both come with a lot of risk, so we have to wait and see with them grades. Giants, I give a B plus. Jets, I give a B.
Thank you, because I would give it a B or a B minus if I was being fair to my team for all the things you just said. I'll go with my Giants first, because again, I think the Jets losing Aaron Rodgers hurt them, or they would have been a playoff team last year. Like I really think that. I don't want to pretend like I think it's the same old Jets. I think if everyone's healthy, they have a real. Even if they don't win a playoff game and the drought continues, I feel like they could be competitive in a deep conference. With that said, the Giants moves. I had, as Brett knows, zero optimism going into this offseason compared to even last year going into the offseason with Coach of the Year. Obviously, I'm a Dayball defender. I think he's better than a lot of people want to give him credit for. He kept the team together despite a defensive coordinator that was already looking for an exit that could destroy a locker room. I was worried about losing Xavier McKinney, which we did. But after we lost him, we made the trade for Brian Burns. So at least that showed me there was a plan there, because I did not understand losing a captain and such an like a defensive anchor and a leader at the end of the day, a young leader of the team, a core member of the team, and then you let them walk in conference to the Packers. Packers, we didn't mention them. I think they had a great offseason. The Packers, we could have mentioned the Packers as a winner, all seriousness. But the Giants, that letting him walk and then getting Burns, that made sense. I was like, okay, because for obvious reasons, you establish a solid pass rush, you can always find a safety. You might be weaker at safety, but you'd rather be weaker at safety than at pass rush. And listen, I have a lot of old school tendencies with my football philosophies, and that's one of them. If you're building the pass rush in an offseason, I'm not going to be like, I can't believe this is what we're doing. We spent the last over a decade trying to build an offensive line and failing at it. If we're not going to have an offensive line, let's make every other offensive line fear our defensive line. And that's the best way to counter it. That's the best way to make a
Mind you,
mediocre
I
offensive.
would like to remind everybody, Charles is the same guy when we did the draft, his mock draft last year. He drafted nothing but edge rushers and defensive linemen. Like no quarterbacks, no wide receivers, no nothing. Every freaking pick was who's the best defensive lineman available. That's who I'm drafting. And I'm like, Charles, this is why you're not a GM. Because like, good
I'm a
God.
defensive coordinator, and I told you that my whole damn existence. I'd
Yes,
make a.
he is a defensive coordinator.
I'm a defensive
His
coordinator,
defensive
dog.
court and his defensive strategy is simple. We're just gonna have future Hall of Famers at every position on the defensive line, and I'm not even gonna blitz. We're just because we have future Hall of Famers everywhere. Good luck.
Bro, not everywhere, but the front seven should have at least two Hall of Famers on it. And then the other five of the front seven should just be quality. And then make the secondary a bunch of ball hawks and build like that.
He drafted nothing but defensive line.
Yo, I'd have the number one defense in the league.
I would hope so.
Defense wins championships.
I
Anyway,
w- I would hope
do you
so
have a
after.
slide about the newest bird? Like, I feel like you're setting me up. Okay, I knew it was in the future. I'm like, this dude is just gonna try to. If it was not, it's gonna be last because he wants to be like he. Go on,
No,
you little
I don't
rant.
think I have anything on the Eagles in here. Yeah, I
You
don't.
have nothing on the Eagles in here.
No.
You're such a troll sometimes.
How?
How are
How?
you such a troll?
What? Because I don't have anything on the Eagles in here?
You don't have nothing about Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles.
Mm-mm.
How? That's like not having anything about this shit that you just pulled up. Like, how do you have a presentation about the free agency period and not have Saquon moving to the Eagles?
Because it's just a winners and losers. I'm not going through every team's moves. I don't
So,
think. I
so
don't
out of
think.
curiosity, what would you grade the Eagles offseason?
Like a B.
Interesting.
I mean, Saquon is cool. Again, like we were joking before we started. It's weird to me because Saquon to me like running back is weird because they don't even utilize their running backs like that. Like I like they use running backs as a decoy for fucking just Jalen Hurts. So like, it's like cool, you got Saquon, but it's like it's not like I believe that they're gonna utilize him the way he needs to be utilized. Now, granted, with their offensive line, when they do utilize him, I'm sure he's gonna be like cheesing from ear to ear because the holes that he's gonna be run through are gonna be massive. It's like, oh my god, daylight. I've never seen this before. But like, yeah, but you're only gonna get like 5 carries a game, so it doesn't matter. So it's like you better hit a home run every time you get the ball because they're not gonna utilize you. Like that's now, unless they're saying because we paid him this much, we will utilize him. But I haven't seen that. They've had good running backs, and it's the Jalen Hurts show. That's what their offense is, which is why you don't put freaking Eagles running backs in your fantasy team. So cool, you got Saquon. If they utilize him, great. There's nothing that tells me they're going to utilize him because they've had good running backs and they don't utilize them. So, and that's the big, like, you know, Kelsey retired. They've made some other moves. They've lost some secondary pieces. So like I don't know.
Dream team. Dream
Yeah, I
team.
don't know. I don't know. So anyway, also in the middle. Plus, I did a because I did a slide for in the middle because I did two winners, two losers, and I did one in the middle. I said, let me do two in the middle slides. Make
Yo,
sure.
can I have my first hyperbolic statement of this way too early thing to make these predictive ass statements type of thing?
Sure.
The Falcons are low key a Super Bowl contender now. Like if they're all healthy and Kirk Cousins stays healthy and he's still Kirk Cousins, and they have that offense, those with those weapons,
Mm-hmm.
the defense just has to be mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
Like and they're winning the South.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's not saying much.
I'm
That's
just saying, but okay, but like if that offense is just who they are, but exactly what they need is a Kirk Cousins. There isn't a defense that can necessarily just shut them down if they are who they are supposed to be, just based off uh, their potential. Like I was a Falcons fan, and I'll say this too about the Bears because you made a lot of good points about the Bears. If you're a Bears fan and a Falcons fan and a Texans fan right now, be excited. Like like I'm being cynical because I'm just an older fan and I'm just kind of like, man, they always mess this up because I've been excited for these types of teams before. And then
well,
when it comes,
I'll say this. I will say this to your point. I gotta stop saying Because my famous line is even they can't screw this up, and somehow they screw. Like when I looked at the Bears quarterback situation, I literally said, "Oh, there's no way they could screw this up," and somehow they screwed it up. Somehow they sat there and let all the quarterbacks go. So now Justin Fields had zero trade value. I did not see that happening. I figured they were going to make a decision quickly and either trade the number one pick and keep Justin Fields or trade Justin Fields and draft Caleb Williams. They sat there and they waited for all of the other quarterbacks to get chosen. And then they're like, oh, well, shit. Now we have to trade him for nothing.
You
So,
traded him to nothing to a team. With the reason why it sounds like I'm hitting on Deontay Johnson is because I have high expectations for Pickett. You know what I mean? Like, what's my homie at tight end that I
Pat
steal from you?
Fryermuth.
Yeah, the guy I steal for Brett in every fantasy draft just because I know he wants him. Like he's just one of those picks. But that's what I mean. Like the Steelers should be fucking actually contending. Brett says it every year, and like it's a meaningless word to Brett, but they should actually be real contenders this year for the first time in forever, which should be really
Man,
exciting.
our schedule is hard as shit. So I'm still holding my breath.
Oh yeah, this Brett, the prophet of the schedule.
Bro, I'm just
All is
I'm just
foretold.
saying, bro, people really don't understand how important that is in football. But that's another thing with the Bears. The Bears, I think, have like a very easy schedule next year. So it's like,
Bro, I just want to on some real shit. Like about Saquon because I know people probably expect me to have like some kind of crazy rant, and most of my rant of the day of and the other day was more about Brett saying I can't just say fuck him now, which is like I'm a fan, of course I can. Don't tell me I can't do that, but it was more like a meta conversation than a me ranting like I can't believe he did this. He went to the bag. I was hoping he was going to go to Texans for the same reasons, for everything that Brett just said. I feel like if he went to the Texans, I'd still be able to cheer for him. I wish him nothing but failure in Philadelphia, though. I want him to become DeMarco Murray in Philadelphia. But the Texans were literally the team. Ask Brett because I conceded to Brett before any of this transpired, mind you. I said, nah, man, like unless we get a team friendly deal, I expect him to be gone. Like, and for everything, and I give Brett his props. That's why I was like, I know you're going to troll because everybody would be killing the Giants if we signed Saquon. If we gave the same deal that the Eagles did to Saquon, everyone would be like, look at this trash organization and the money they're throwing away, yada, yada, yada. So we let him walk. And of course, he walked, so he didn't have to move. It's a very realistic move from a human standpoint. It's just funny because he told on himself emotionally. Like, you didn't expect the fans to have a fan reaction. Like, anyway. And also, everybody took Tiki Barber out of a fucking, like, you guys, he has a radio show in New York. Like, chill the fuck out. Like, it was a Streisand effect. If Barkley never responded, nobody would even know that it was ever said on the fan, besides the same boomers that call up the fan. With that said, the Texans and the Falcons, these should be the two teams winning both Southern divisions.
again, not saying much, but yes.
I know, but that's well, we can say it's not saying much, but me and you also are, ironically, compared to what we've been doing this pod, usually super optimistic about from here to after the draft. We are like, oh, all these teams are so much better. I think it's between the Falcons and the Bucks, which is, you could take a shot at the Saints too, but I think the Bucks kind of prove they're not going.
It's the Falcons and the Bucks. Yep.
But yeah, but if Carr stays healthy and they make a couple moves, they're on the Bucks level. Like, no, no,
I don't see it.
I couldn't tell.
I'm higher on Derek Carr than most people, but they were in cap hell. They also lost a few people, so like they've gotten worse. I mean, again, really, we're not gonna know until after the draft, right? Like it's what you do in the draft and everything else. But
what are these two teams doing in the draft?
well, that's what I'm saying. Atlanta. So Atlanta, I'm more the reason why I gave him a B minus is because there's a reason why nobody wanted to give Kirk Cousins that much money. Like, first of all, whoever his agent is, like they win agent of the of a millennia because the freaking contracts this guy gets is insane. The agent must have dirty pictures of these owners or something. Like I don't understand how this
Well,
happens.
also let's keep it a buck on Kirk Cousins. He's better than a lot of people ever will give him
Oh
credit.
no, no, I'm higher on the Kirk Cousins and the Derek Carrs of the world than other people are, right? Like I understand, like yo, it's hard to find a good quarterback. So the fact people expect like there's this whole notion of the Dolphins should get rid of Tua now, and it's like guys, not everybody's gonna be Patrick Mahomes, guys. Like there's only like
No,
three of
real
you.
talk. But if Kirk Cousins was on the Dolphins, like Kirk Cousins improves. He's a better version, and I'm big on this guy who I'm about to say. It's not shade, but he's a better version of Alex Smith. Alex Smith would never make a team worse. He might not elevate you to contender, but you're a playoff team if Alex Smith is starting.
Mm-hmm.
With Kirk Cousins, he takes you that extra step. You might not be a Super Bowl contender,
Right,
but
but
if you're barely,
he does make you better. Correct.
he improves your team.
Right.
He will take a team that's just scraping to get that wild card, and now the division is going to go through him one
Yeah.
way or the other.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. My only thing is at 35 coming off an Achilles, and I know he's not a mobile quarterback, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I just think that was a real big risk for a guy that if he's not healthy, like I guess my thing is we just saw this with the Jets, right? It's like, guys, are you sure you want to be in bed with this guy like that? There's a reason why you're the
Oh
only
no, Deshaun Watson. Don't you can say Deshaun Watson too? Just guaranteed money and injuries.
yeah.
It
So
is what it
that's
is.
the only reason why I give it a B minus. But you're right. If he's healthy and everything, they have the eighth pick in the draft. They could go take another receiver. Like they could be in a good position. We'll see.
They could take a quarterback with that pick or in the second round and have their quarterback of the future sit behind a Kirk Cousins who again
Well,
no one
but
in the
see,
league
they gave him a
seems to
3 year
track.
deal, so I don't think they're gonna do that. They're gonna go all in. They're either gonna help with the defense or they're gonna give him even more playmakers on offense. Maybe in the later rounds they'll take a quarterback as a developmental backup. But
You know I like going defense in the top 10. You know I like
yeah, of course. Well, we know they're going edge rusher, Charles. Don't worry.
ah!
And with the Texans, again, I love the moves they made. They got the Neil Hunter. They traded for Joe Mixon for nothing but a seventh rounder. Trading with the Vikings to get out of the first round to me didn't make a lot of sense.
See, and that's the thing, right? Thank you for reminding me because that was what I was trying to remember when we were talking about Deontay Johnson. I'm like, I'm not throwing shade because in my head, Joe Mixon is way more valuable than Deontay Johnson is.
Not at this stage of his career. Not, as a running back at this stage of his career,
How old is he? I'm not even being funny. How old is Joe Mixon now?
I mean, he's not 30. I don't
Yeah, he's
think.
not 30 yet.
But he's I have no idea how
Whoa, wait a second. How come King Henry wasn't on the winners' side of this little equation?
because the Raven. I mean, if anything, they're losers. The Ravens have lost so many players on their offensive line and their defense. So okay, they got King Henry, great. Y'all better hope that he rushes that you as an offense run. They lost the receivers too. The matter of fact, the Ravens, depending on now, they can have a great draft, but if they don't have a great draft, the Ravens are going to be a surprise team in terms of like going down next year.
Okay, no, keep an
They,
eye on. I was keeping it a buck.
they
Listen,
lost a lot of guys this offseason.
Brett knows if I had my way, I'd just be my
He's
teams
20.
would look like
All right, so
Golden Age Mississippi and Alabama teams.
Joe Mixon's
So
27. So in running back in NFL running back years, he's 50. He's 27. Oh my God.
he's useless. Trade him for a seven.
He's like, well,
Trade him for a seven.
I was healthy last year. It doesn't matter.
I had 1,000 yards. Shut the fuck up.
You're not 24
We're
anymore.
gonna draft a kid from Boston College in the fifth round to replace you.
Oh, get this guy a freaking wheelchair, his old ass.
Like,
I don't know. I mean, again, I love what the Texans did. I just trading out of the first round to me, especially with what they still need and the way the draft board was gonna fall. At 23, they were gonna have some really good options. Excuse me. So that was weird to me. Also, I didn't put a slide here, but I should mention this: the Vikings are clearly the losers of the offseason. You lost Daniil Hunter, you lost Kirk Cousins. You were banking on him coming back for nothing. You should
but
have
his name
known,
is Danielle, and no one's gonna tell me otherwise.
right? I was thinking that when I was typing. I was like, It's pronounced Daniil? I don't know about
I
that.
say Danielle because I'm my language is English, and that's what that name is.
Right, right. You put all your eggs in bringing Kirk Cousins back for
No, they
cheap.
didn't. At least from my Vikings fan homie that he's been friends with for 20 years. He loves Kirk Cousins. Just for anyone that's gonna wonder, like he wasn't like he's the greatest ever, but he's the greatest quarterback I got to watch in this era. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm not gonna hate on him. Good for him getting paid. I don't think I feel like calling them a loser of the offseason is too premature. If they have a terrible draft, sure.
They lost their two. Well, again, we're just talking about free agency. We'll
Mhm.
see after the draft. But they lost their quarterback. They lost their edge rusher. They had to trade into the first round to get back into the first round, and now they're going to trade up to probably reach on a guy like JJ McCarthy. Yeah, yeah.
I really don't
Now,
want the Giants
now, if
taking
you've been
him.
watching my mock drafts, you would know. I want them to trade up to get Jaden Daniels. That's who I want. Now, some people say he doesn't fit the offensive coordinator's scheme. I say screw that, make it work. Jaden Daniels in this offense sounds amazing to me. If you traded for Drake May, fine, I'm cool with that. If you traded for JJ McCarthy, yeah, man, I can't. To me, I think if you are the Vikings at this point, you still have Justin Jefferson, you still have Jordan Addison. You can't break it down like that. I think you have to call up New England right now and say, what will it take to go to three? I have to get one of those top three quarterbacks. They cannot settle for JJ McCarthy. I really don't understand the first round pick hype of JJ McCarthy. I really don't.
You know what's
Um,
crazy? Talking about first round pick hype and keeping it in the Big Ten. I'm looking through all the signings. Jeff Okuda left the Lions and he's a Texan now,
yeah. Hmm.
and that's just crazy. Because again, man, I listen, and I want to be fair because I always get on Brett for the after the underwear practice how the hype really gets ridiculous, and then there's players that were never talked about get going in the top 10 all the time. Jeff Okuda was hype coming out of college. He was supposed to be Revis, and to see him get not only see like listen, people change teams. I'm not even trying to act like that's new, but the complete lack of any type of hype for him leaving the Lions and going to the Texans seemed unforeseeable when he got drafted. That's why this is such an inexact science because like we didn't even like it's not even a thing that like was text worthy in chats, and this dude was supposed to be the shut down corner of this era. I don't know.
Yeah, he
Like
was the third. He was the third pick in the draft. He was supposed to be amazing. Yeah.
yeah, and now here we are. And it's just I got triggered a little bit because it's like I'm seeing that, and we're talking about JJ McCarthy, and unlike Akuda, who was at OSU, and we were watching be just a great cornerback in real time. McCarthy, I'm not going to hate on him. He was more than mediocre in college. I want to make it clear. He's not. He's a
Oh, did we lose Charles? Uh-oh.
um, but
Okay,
oh, I'm
my
still
bad.
here. Okay, my bad. But I really think as a fan, not once watching the playoffs or the championship game did I ever watch AJ McCarthy and go, "Damn, I wish my team was going to draft him." Not once.
Not
And that's
once.
just me being honest as a fan. He could be that quarterback that comes into the league and we're like, we were all wrong about him. But
I doubt it. Yeah, here's how bad JJ McCarthy. And again, I don't hate on these kids. I don't know these kids. I root them nothing. I want nothing but success for them. I'm not saying he's undraftable. I'm saying to take him in the first round, let alone the top 10, is insanity to me. Even some of the plays that people have been posting in defense of JJ McCarthy. Oh, look at these throws. Look at these throws. I tweeted one of them. Oh, look at the timing and the back shoulder throw. And then I said, bro, if he does that in the league, that's getting pick six.
yeah, I saw that. He threw to give people a little bit of a breakdown. So he's throwing, he breaks from the pocket and he throws to his left for that over the shoulder throw from his right to his left. He throws into triple coverage.
Right.
And the reason it wasn't picked off was
Because it's
because you're not.
college.
Yeah, it's college, and like,
Like,
listen, was it a nice college throw? Absolutely, but in the pros, Not only is both those corners able to pick off that same throw, the safety would have ate first and just jumped the pick. Like it was one of those throws where it's like, oh, this only works when it's not supposed to. This
Right.
isn't something you
Yeah,
can do.
and it was like, oh, look at the anticipation and look at the throw. He saw the linebacker closing in, so he threw it to the back shoulder. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter in the league when that linebacker runs a 4-3. That's going like, instead of
Yeah,
a
if you throw that too early, again, it's not a completion. You're hoping it's dropped because three defenders are fighting for it.
right, right. So even some of the plays that people are showing to defend JJ McCarthy, I'm like, bro,
I'm
this
pretty
don't.
sure it was a cover. Pretty sure it was a cover two zone type of play on defense because there was a dude. If you could picture the receiver running the slot from the right to the left, there's a defender on him that's behind him. He's running into another defender, and the safety is coming up the middle to provide that extra help. That's the level of cover this target was behind him, in front of him, and if you overthrow him, it's a pick. So I'll give him the credit. It did hit it. But the credit is only because three of those dudes aren't going to the league.
Right, the three dudes covering him are going to be in Walmart next week, next month.
Like,
Those three guys are going to
but
be working.
and then I'm a jerk.
Well, I'm sorry, it is the Big Ten, so they're probably going to get good jobs. Those three guys are going to be working on Wall Street next year, but they're not going to be playing football. Is the point I'm making?
Yeah.
Like,
But
it's just crazy. Again, I'm not saying don't draft him. If you take him in the second or third round, cool. Oh, second round. If you take him in the second round, I will not poo poo that. But to take him in the top 5, and by the way, I don't believe this either because again, we did the same thing with Kenny Pickett's draft class. Like, oh, all these teams need quarterbacks that are going to reach on quarterbacks. We've seen the last couple of years, teams are getting smarter and realizing if it's not the guy, don't reach. So we've seen like Will Levis fell to the second round. He was supposed to be a top 5 pick. Again, Kenny Pickett's draft. Kenny Pickett was the only guy taken in the first 2 rounds, and he was taken at 20 because the Steelers were like, well, damn, he's here at 20. I guess we'll take him. So I'm
and
hoping
he's off the team already.
right, and exactly, and a lot of these guys are off the team already. So I'm hoping that teams are realizing, yo, do not reach for a quarterback just because we need him. JJ McCarthy is again. I'm not hating on JJ. I hope he has a great career.
Oh, for real. I really listen, man. If my Giants take him, I'm gonna find Brett and his kitchen wherever the fuck they are. But after that, I'll feel a lot better about myself. But I'm coming for you, Brett. I will find you.
Yeah, it's
Brett. You could hide.
not
If
honestly.
you
If y'all
draft
take
JJ McCarthy, I'm coming after you, Brett.
Charles, if y'all take JJ McCarthy, and we joked about Drake May because you don't want another Carolina quarterback.
You listen. I want to be everybody because I give Brett a lot of shit. Uh, he literally talked me off the ledge off that like in the most calm way. He's like, yeah, but the NIL didn't exist then. Now they can afford to get those good guys, so you can't go like. And when he said that to me, it was such a like a, oh right, that is a thing now. Like if they're pay if they are getting the better quarter. It was one of those like, oh shit, the new rules, new air quotes on new rules, and it's like that does change up a lot of the old perceptions. Like you can't you to that same token, I can't be that old man and just see Alabama or LSU and assume it's the tippy top of the elite anymore. Not saying that's not true, but it's not. It's a new
Yeah, I was
day.
explaining this to my dad the other day because it's like that's how even a team like Rutgers is getting better players. Because what's happening now is, let's say I'm a kid from Jersey, and you know how these kids are, like they'll put Rutgers in their top 5, knowing it's 5th place, knowing that they have no intention of going to Rutgers. So let's say I'm a kid from Jersey, I have Rutgers in my top 5 just to show the in-state school some love. But let's say I'm a Texas fan. So Texas is really the school I want to go to. But Alabama offered me, LSU offered me. So my top 5 is Texas, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, and Rutgers. So usually you knew Rutgers had no shot at all. But what might happen is Texas offered all their money to people already. So did Alabama, so did LSU. So now it might be come down from to Georgia and Rutgers, and maybe I just like Rutgers campus more than like Georgia, or
Not even that. Maybe Georgia already has two. Like say,
right,
let's
yeah, right, or maybe they'll offer me, but they already got 2 players that in my position already, where I know I could start right away at Rutgers. So now I'm going to Rutgers, Where in years past, there's no way I would have went to Rutgers. So that's what's happening.
And this is why the Big Ten move is better even now, because that was we were already benefiting and more for hoops, but the move to the Big Ten immediately benefited the school in every aspect besides football.
Right.
The NIL stuff has now brought. Well, we shouldn't say that because Rutgers has always been able to get. It feels like cornerbacks and wide receivers.
And running backs.
Well, yeah, it's a generational thing, right? Because like as that position has fell off, our running backs have, because we used to have running backs like that like they might go 6th round pick and be a backup over for the next 5 years, but they were making the league. Like our cornerbacks, just our secondary.
But Checo just won his second Super Bowl.
Yeah, he was the reason.
No, I'm just saying he's a starting quarterback. He's a starting running back for the back.
No, you're right. You're right. You say Rutgers running back.
And we
Let's
have
keep it
two guys
above. You still
now.
think of Ray Rice.
Yeah, true. But we have two guys now because I don't think they came out this year. We have two guys now that might get drafted. Or I'm sorry, not two guys. We have a guy now who's one of the best running backs in the nation. He'll probably get drafted next year when he goes out. Not in 2025. So yeah, we still get running back. We realistically, the one thing it's just quarterback. We just never could get a quarterback. We've had good offensive linemen, we've had good receivers, we've had good corners. We cannot get a quarterback to save
Now
our.
that one kid, and I don't want to say his name because it's unfair to have unrealistic expectations, but we signed some quarterback that turned out to be nothing, but we were all hype about in the last 3 years. I want to say,
Yeah, Wimsat. Yeah, he sucks.
who?
Gavin Wimsat. He sucks. Yeah, he was a 4-star from Kentucky, and that should have told us everything we need to know. And like, if you're in SEC country but you're coming to Rutgers, that should tell us everything we need to know.
I mean,
He's gotten better, but yeah, let's just say he will not be playing on Sundays.
okay, so before we call it, I got to do one of my random hypothetical questions to ask you. Is there a move, because your team did the shit? Like I really have nothing negative to say. I was one of the first people texting you like, you sons of bitches. Like, this is such a good move. When it was Russell Wilson, then you got Justin Fields, and I had like, secondary and third hatred for Brett. Like, I think I just texted him, fuck you. I think that's actually what the message was. Like, and he was probably like, I wonder what this is about. But that's what I totally texted him, because I was just mad as a fan. Because, like, how am I not going to be excited for Justin Fields, Najee Harris, and George Pickens? Like,
to be fair, I also was trolling him because I sent him a meme of like the Steelers got rid of Kenny Pickett in 2 years and got Russell Wilson. Justin.
No, I shared that. That hit me.
Meanwhile, Giants fans are stuck with year 6 of Daniel Jones.
I don't know what I did in a past life to deserve this dirt for this long, but like, there isn't a move I could even ask you. I was asking, what did you want to do? No, you did it. You did the shit that you would have been like, oh, I really wish it could have been a way we would have got Justin Fields for a bag of fucking chips, and then you got him. So good for you. Like, and the irony here is, I wanted to keep Saquon, but not at some ridiculous price at the expense of everything else. So now, with hindsight being 2020, if we keep Saquon, there's no way we trade for Brian Burns.
Because you probably don't have the money to pay him what you paid him.
Yeah, because we just signed him to an extension, and like, again, Brett's making the jokes because I'm really simple. You make my front seven elite, and I'm content with the squad.
I will say this, and I'm not trying to hate, and I love Brian Burns, and I'm mad that the Panthers didn't trade him earlier for better,
for 2 picks, for 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, for 2 first and a second, which makes no fucking sense. There is a knock on Brian Burns that he's never really broke out the way they thought he was going to break out. And that was one of the reasons why they kept him for so long, because they were just waiting to see him break out. Because that was another thing. They're like, well, if he breaks out, we'll keep him. And if he also breaks out, if we're getting 2 first and a second for him now, if he breaks out, we'll give him more for him later. And that never happened. So in theory, your defensive line is going to be OD. We'll see. Now, granted, also be fair to Brian Burns, he never had somebody on the other side. And that was all part of the problem. Like, you knew he was the only guy on the defensive line you had to worry about. So maybe that's why he never broke out. But it's interesting because KT also one of those guys like as
That's what I was
talented
about to say.
as he is, he's never had like the eye-popping numbers. So it's interesting. We're gonna see. Like this line could be monster. I guess my point is I hope the expectations aren't too high because this line's either going to be really good or people are going to say, "Oh, this is such a disappointment." Da, 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 da. When realistically, you have three guys that individually, man, maybe not Dexter Lawrence. I don't know what his numbers
No,
are.
Dexter Lawrence is the best one.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
the
So the point I'm
Dexter
making is,
Lawrence is the only one that we feel. When I say we the Giants fandom, right? The only two players in the last 3 years, and I mean serious now, even with Kayvon being drafted, the only two players that was a consensus, you don't fucking touch this person, they're a lifer, is Andrew Thomas and Sexy Dexy.
okay,
Those two players are the only two players. There is a consensus, mind you, as I point out to Brett, Giants fans have been arguing about Daniel Jones the entire time.
yeah,
Saquon Barkley, a little bit more recent in the franchise tag years, it's been a well, no, we shouldn't do this X, Y, and Z type of thing. Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence, those are the foundational pieces in which if we were to lose, not to injury, I mean like the GM doesn't do his damn job, that's you're gone. Like we don't want you anymore. We
yeah.
could lose Daboll after week one. Like if the Giants fire him, that like what the fuck is going on would be 1/10 if we traded Dexter Lawrence within the last couple of months. I'll put it like that. That's the difference.
Okay.
So
So
when
yeah, I guess the
I
point I'm
don't
making is both Burns and KT on paper, their talent is immense, but we haven't seen it yet. So I would say temper expectations a little bit because I don't want people to overreact if they're not blowing, destroying every quarterback.
well,
Like,
here's the thing. This is the thing we got to look at, right? So if we're doing the 3-4 and it's only those three lining up, you got Dex in the middle, and who cares on either side, right? Uh, if Dex is getting double teamed, it's up to one of them to get that, if not both, to get that pressure on, right? If one of them is consistently getting the pressure on because the other one's getting double teamed, that person's the keeper, regardless if it's Kayvon Thibodeau or it's Brian Burns. I feel like both of them are going to be keepers in that sense because last time we had a line that was lined up like this. Let's be real. The reason why we got so much draft capital is because we moved on from Big Cat and everybody but Dexter Lawrence, essentially, because we were like, hey, these guys, the only reason they're even decent is because we got him in the middle anyway. Anybody could be getting these Leonard Williams numbers, and we can trade him, free up that cap space. And that's exactly what the Giants did. So I feel like it's more of a Kayvon. You're the one that's not getting paid. Go prove that we need to pay you. And as you know, the Giants, if you prove like shit, the Giants were never like, what are we going to do? We have three defensive guys we have to pay. They're like, shit, pay the defensive guy. So, like, that's the one thing that I'm not worried about is if it works, it works. Even if it doesn't work, if they're just okay, right? What you just said, fucking trade high. Because if Kayvon's not putting up the sack numbers, but if there's somebody that's willing to give us like a Chase Young type of package, okay. All Brian Burns got to do is be good. Let's be real. Like he doesn't need to even be generationally good. No, he just needs to be good. If you're in the top 5, top 10 statistically at your position, you already
yeah,
have
because I
validated that
think
pay.
I think he only has like one season where he had double digit sacks or something like that. It's one of those weird things where it's like what so like people are like, why does he get so much hype when he doesn't have like the numbers? But again, it's also one of those things like if you know the Panthers defensive line, like he's really the only guy you're worried about.
And like Kayvon, people were calling him a bust, and me and you had to point out, look at his pressures. Like that's a stat too, not just like if he's pressuring and forcing throws to get out faster. That is still that's effective. That is him being effective at the position. So like I feel like people only look at sacks the same way, like for receivers a lot of the time you're looking at yards. And sometimes it doesn't tell the whole story. Like what you were saying about Deontay Johnson, like, yo, you can't look at the yards. That's not telling the whole story of the offense. When same thing for sacks. You might have 5 sacks, but if you were not on that team, that defense could be 10 spots lower.
no,
That's how
that's true.
defenses work.
Like I said, I think you got the. I'll put you this way: there's no way the defensive line is going to be bad if all three of them are in there and healthy. I'm just saying, I know a lot of Giants fans are expecting y'all to like lead the league in sacks and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know if you want to put those type of expectations on the defensive line. That's
I feel like
all.
that's us being fans in the sense of that's what all I'm hoping for. You know what I mean? Like if we're gonna be like, oh, as of right now, what are your expectations for next season? If we could find a way to get back to the playoffs, that'd be a fucking awesome season. If more realistic, air quotes on that, more realistic, I feel like would be our defense being like, oh, yo, we're the best pass rush in the league, but we're like, got 5 wins late in the season. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's going to be one of those seasons if keeping it a buck. But then again, the draft could completely reshape all this. The Giants could move up, pick a new quarterback, make other trades all on draft night, and the entire landscape of how I'm viewing this team is fucking that much different in a month's time, or something close to a month's time. Uh, that's kind of where I'm at, like with it. Like I feel like we could lead the league in sacks, or we could be making more moves to get draft capital and talking about who the Giants are picking in the top 10, sooner rather than later. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah, that's true. All right. You can find me at Never Brett Me. That's NEVA underscore the number 4 BRETT underscore ME on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads.
Reds. Not the Chuck D on all the socials, the underscore dope blog on Twitter, the dope blog, all one word on Instagram, or vice versa. I can't remember right now. And we're on threads too. Like I really just blanked. I'm like, did I mix that up? www.thedope.blog. Also, fuck the Eagles.
Okay, cool.
Fuck the
Because you're
Eagles
watching this
and their
on
stupid
YouTube.
asses.
All right, because you're watching this on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe, and join us next time
And
as we
Jerry
discuss.
Jones like supported like segregation. So like the more bad things that happen to the Cowboys, they just deserve it.
Sure. Because you're watching this on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe, and join us next time as we discuss other people's excellence. Deuces.